Hello and welcome, my lovely little online family. Welcome once again to the regular weekly gathering on the virtual settee of YouTooSpain by the virtual pool. Today we'll be chatting to our residency specialist and good friend Chris from Upsticks.es all about how to get residency in Spain as a couple, if only one of you is Spanish or a citizen of another EU country. We'll cover some variations as well, and we'll answer your questions about that and anything else to do with moving to Spain and living here. And there's always something special and exciting for you at the end of our time together, so stick around for that. If you've slept in by any chance and you're watching the recording of the show afterwards, you can find the time codes and chapter headings for each of the answers you need in the video description below, so you can skip to the answers you want. But no, watch the whole chat. Come on, gather round. It's time for our little tune. And it's time to dance. Let's do it. Oh yes, give thanks to the groovy wizard Lee Spreadbury for our cosmic theme tune. Thank you, my darling, once again. He's one of the family, isn't he? Now, before I bring in our guest, don't forget you can thank us for the important things you learned today by either clicking on the $ below, somewhere down here, or using one of the two links in the video description. With one of them, you can buy me a coffee. The other, you can make a regular donation through Patreon. And that's especially for close members of the family like you. It's where you get extras, extra videos and stuff. Shh, don't tell anyone. And you can find lots of information, articles and links on our website as well, YouTooSpain.com. Join the mailing list and I'll write to you every month. Thank you, my lovely. I was taken over there by Walter Ego. Finally, don't forget, if you're going to be moving and exchanging currency, which most of you are, you can get expert help from our great friends and members of our lovely family, Smart Currency Exchange. They've got a link below and on our website too, just for you, and you get a free account with them and your own personal advisor. And using that link helps our lovely YouTooSpain family. Okay, it's a really good way of supporting us and also holding on to a great exchange rate. It's a win-win. Talk to them. And to learn more about that, join me for the Monday live chat. Yes, don't miss that. At Spanish 1 p.m. in the virtual Cafe of Cash, where we talk about how much your money is worth in different currencies and what's going to happen in the future. So there we are. Those are today's announcements. So without further ado, let's meet our wonderful guest for the day. It's Chris from Upsticks. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning.
How are you doing? You're over in Almeria today, aren't you? No, yes, Almeria.
Almeria, yeah, that's right. Yeah, sorry, from the hotel room this morning in Almeria.
Brilliant. And you've got to be out fairly sharpish, so we'll keep this programme to a nice hour. At the most.
Yeah, sorry about that. I had appointments here yesterday and ended up deciding to stay, and but then we've got to get out quickly. But the appointments need to be done, so.
Absolutely, yes. And the family needs a holiday, so we won't keep you too long. Let's say good morning to Phil Quantrill, and Kimberly is working, so he's all alone. Oh, bless. We'll send you a kiss. And Ian Fleming, he's taken some time off from writing Bond novels. Good morning, Skatz. 2 weeks to go before we start our new life in Spain. Of course, visa permitting. Oh, yes, you're waiting for your visa. Fingers crossed for you. And someday soon, morning all. So, let's... I've had a few questions on social media recently, actually, about the process of what we're talking about today. And especially saying I'm Spanish and my partner is a non-EU citizen. So let's just say to start with, that's almost the same as me and Liz. I'm from Ireland and Liz is a UK citizen. So what difference is it? It's only a small difference, really, if I was a Spanish citizen.
Yeah, that's right. So it's the same rule. Basically, but if you're married to a Spanish citizen, that person has to prove who they are. Exactly the same, as we did for you with your Irish passport. With a Spanish citizen, it'd be with the DNA, or the passport, evidently. But the process is the same when it comes to a Spanish citizen.
Apart from they don't have to get an EU residency card, do they?
Apart from they already have, their EU residency card as such, in terms of they're actually a national. So they'll have it's always advisable to have the DNE, because on the government website it says you have to present the DNE, and a lot of Spanish nationals who don't live in Spain don't actually have the DNA. So we could say that it's a good idea. Although if you've got a passport and we can prove that that Spanish person is now living in Spain, that's obviously a very important part of the process. And getting a DNA, if you've only got a passport, proves that, because I'll have your Spanish address, etc., on there as well. So I suppose in the sense of what we did for you with getting the EU residency card, that would be in the terms of doing it with a Spanish partner, it would be substituted by getting your DNA if you don't have one.
There we go. So, as I've found out from over a year of talking about this process, there's no one way of doing it. And there are lots of times when you hear the phrase, it depends, because everyone's circumstance is slightly different. Depends on which one of you is the EU citizen, which one's going to be working, whether one of you are both, or if you're retired. But let's see if we can go through the basic process of how to get an appointment, where to go, what documents you need, and what the process entails, and how long it takes. Anything else you can think of on the way through. So
yeah, definitely.
Away.
I mean, we always say that, don't we? Oh, it depends. But there's always, to every single thing, there is a basic structure. You know, we stick to it. When we're talking to somebody or doing a discovery call, you have to stick to the basic structure. And then you go, oh, hang on a minute, this is Alicante. I think they need extra things, you know. So that's what happens all the time. So we had a classic one of that is like Malaga. When you do the application for the non-EU partner, you don't have to send in a scanned copy of the EX19 with the original signature. They accept the fact it's being done by a representative. In Almeria, they want scanned copies of everything. So you have to do it as a representative, and you also have to send in an original. So we got those variations now, but when we're talking about the process, well, basically, as you know, and you've been through it with us as well, you can both come in. So you both come into Spain on the third country national, come in on a Schengen allowance, and obviously the EU citizen will come into the country as well. And any EU citizen we know has to register as well if their intention is to stay in Spain more than 90 days as a resident, but that isn't as controlled as a third country national. What we always say is that make sure that the residency application for the third country national is in before their Schengen allowance is up. And that's why I say that first, because that's why it relates back to the EU members a residency appointment. It's very important that you get that within the timescales, because you can't apply for the third country national's residency until the EU appointment is completed. And as you know, we'll get into the requirements now. As you know, if you miss one, you know, you really have to look. We've got clients now. John, who's probably watching, is coming over soon. We'll probably be rocking in Malaga with soon. We're looking now at the appointments for September, because, you know, we're thinking, right, okay, August is a terrible month. There's not many appointments, and suddenly you'll find, you know, we're already looking at appointments in September, or they're going to come on board soon. So if you're already making those plans, you've got to do it quite far in advance.
I'll just say, John Nelson is on the chat. He's just said hello to both of us. He says this is the last show he'll watch from New Zealand, because he's flying to the UK to begin with on Tuesday, and then Spain in September. And we'll see him at the festival. So we're all going to a festival together at the end of the week when he arrives. That'll be fun.
It will. I've never been to a rock festival, so I just agree.
New experience. Brilliant.
New experience.
So yes, carry on the process.
We'll have to do a rock festival video and talk about that instead of.
Yeah, I'll take the camera. Yeah. So the first bit of our process. My process was to get the NIE number, wasn't it?
That's right. So depending on, now you don't have to get, so starting the process for the EU member, you do not have to get an NIE number first unless you need it for parts of your application. Now, obviously for you, we did it first because you were registering as self-employed, and that was quite an important part of the actually getting the EU residency. So if you're an EU citizen and you have a job or you're self-employed, then when you go to do your appointment, having that along with the proof of where you live. So as we know, all residencies, we'll just go back to it, have this base of healthcare, financial stability, where you live. Yeah, that's everything surrounds that. It doesn't matter what you're doing. They're the basis and they're the red flags. Yeah, for residency.
Yep.
So if you need to do something before you go to your appointment, because if you go to an EU residency appointment and you have a work contract or you're registered as self-employed, then that covers both your financial stability and your healthcare. Same for people who are self-employed. Though people who are self-employed, depending on where you're going, if you're recently self-employed, you may have to prove further financial means. So you can't just turn up register self-employed and go, hey, I'm be here. Some places request it, some places don't. So in that sense, you have to get an NIE number first to be able to either get your contract, register the Social Security, or register self-employed. We have seen pre-contracts also without an NIE from companies who have managed to pre-contract people and have them registered with the Social Security on a sort of a pre-contractual basis, and that's worked. But generally, the case is you do need an NIE beforehand. If you're working on a basis of savings and private healthcare, then you don't need an NIE beforehand. You go straight to your appointment and you'll be awarded an NIE directly on your green residency card.
Okay. So people arriving on the non-lucrative visa, retirees, that's for them.
So for EU citizens who are retiring, Irish or German, anybody who don't have an NIE, have never needed an NIE, they can go straight to residency.
Yeah.
So
I'm getting myself confused now. I should have known that.
I'm confused. It's been a long week as well. So that goes for example, for S1 applicants. S1 applicants, people coming over with pensions and S1s, they don't necessarily need to get an NIE beforehand. You don't have to at the moment. We did a couple this week. Need to pre-register the. So I've got an extra light here with a computer. You don't have to pre-register the S1 with Social Security, as you do now with the NLVs. Before you go for residency, as long as you've got that S1, that's fine. So they would get awarded their NIE there and then.
How long does it take you to get that appointment, your residency appointment?
At the moment in Malaga, there wasn't any available. They're looking around a month. The good news is, actually, the very good news is as of this year, you can go anywhere in the province to do your EU residency application, and that wasn't the case last year. So last year we had to get specific. There was areas pocketed. So if you were in Alarina Grande, Coin, for example, you would have to go to Malaga. In Compita, you'd have to go to Velez or Torre del Mar, as it really is. But now you can go anywhere. So that gives us a bit more flexibility. So we have, for example, we brought somebody the other day from Marbella over to Velez because appointment popped up in a week. And we were right, you need to go. And, they're good. Whereas generally they run in around a month's time. But you can get variations to the theme. You just got to be dependent of the system.
Good. So what's next then? The process. So where do you go for the appointment? We've not mentioned that yet.
Yeah, so obviously you go to the Extranjería, which is your local national police station, which deals with foreign registrations. Now, be careful. You have to distinguish immigration to the Extranjería. So some places, like where I was yesterday in Almeria, they have a massive office which is divided down the middle. So immigration, which we'll come to in a minute, deal with all the third country nationals, so we say applications and giving out approvals. Those approvals, you then have to go to the Extranjería to then process that approval and get whatever residency card you need. If you're EU, you skip the immigration bit because evidently you've already got the right to reside in Spain. So although obviously immigration is this massive world of so many different variations, you can simplify it to, if you're EU, you go straight to residency card, and if you're non-EU, you have to get your permission first, however way you get that permission, and then go to the Extranjería to get your card. So
lovely. Lots of it depends there.
Yeah, lots of it depends. So, for example, an NLV, people who are coming from their country of origin, they have to apply through immigration from their consulate. They can't even come to Spain to apply. People who are on an EU platform can come in, and they can apply within Spain. Um, Golden visas completely different because they do it on investor platforms. So we'll talk about that another day.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, so they had, so you basically go to your police station. You would need to book an appointment on the appointment booking system, which can give you a link to that, and obviously take the relevant documentation. First of all, for your EU application, with going back to what we said, it's got to be proof of financials. If you've got savings, it's always better that it's in a Spanish bank account, always. If you're working, work contract or self-employed documents. Again, with Torre del Mar, for example, when we went with you, they had access to the social security. So I asked you for, documents, this, that, and the other, and they went, "Oh no, it's okay. It's okay. We're just gonna just look here." They just look. But we always go belts and braces. Always ask for the documents. But in Granada, for example, they don't have that access, or they don't tell me they have, because they always request every single document. So yeah, that's good. The healthcare, evidently the healthcare has to be suitable for residency as well, which is no co-payments and no exclusions.
And of course, if you're self-employed, you've got to do it a different way around, haven't you? Because that gives you access to the healthcare system, like I got. So we had to do it kind of backwards, didn't we?
You did, yeah. So for self-employed people, basically, you've got your NIE. You can go to you recommended you go to a HESTOR and get them to register you, because it's don't do it yourself. And they will provide you with a certificate which proves, if I remember, yours arrived on the same day. I think of the appointment. A certificate which proves that you have access to the social healthcare system, and with that certificate, you can also use that to register. And they'll also give you 2 documents which prove you're registered with the Social Security and registered with the tax office as well. So that's what proves your healthcare. You don't have to prove on a self-employed basis that you've used the certificate to actually register at the medical centre, as long as you've got the certificate that gives you the right to the healthcare.
So any other documents you need? You need a photograph, don't you?
No, so for EU, you don't need a photograph. You will need your EX18 and your 790 tax form paid, obviously, and signed. You'll need, it's advisable to take a Padron certificate if you've got permanent abode. You should be able to register on the Padron. There are some circumstances where people haven't quite found some, especially this time of year. It's very difficult for people to get long-term rents or even purchase properties, but the timing doesn't work and they need their EU residency beforehand. In that case, it really depends on who you get on the day and the person who's representing you, whether they can wangle it or not. They do request a Padron for the proof of address. Sometimes you just get away with not having one. Sometimes, it's advisable to have one. We always say take a Padron. If you haven't got one, I'm not going to say we can't get away with it, because we have done, but it's always advisable to have.
Great. So that's that's the EU partner. Actually, let's answer a couple of questions and get them out of the way first. This one's completely different subject, but how does licensing work in Spain as an HGV license? This is about driving licenses.
You'd have to, even when we used to be able to exchange licenses, you couldn't exchange an HGV, so you would have had to have taken a test.
So start from scratch is the quick answer. Yeah.
I think, if I remember correctly, we used to be able to exchange up to a CE1. So D, which was commercial, and upwards was not exchangeable.
CE, that's like 7.5 tonner, is it? Or the one
so.
below that?
3.5. I think it's 3.5.
3.5, yeah. There we go. So it's John Nelson. Here we go. He's the husband of an EU wife. Can he wait until January to register for self-employed, as our container won't arrive till late this year, hence won't be doing any gigs this tax year. I will have private health care. Yeah, that's going to be interesting.
Yes. Yeah.
I did actually, didn't I? We arrived in October, and it was January the 1st that my Hestor registered me as self-employed. So we just actually got through the deadline.
Yeah, a lot of it depends on what the financial status is as in the couple. So obviously, if there's healthcare in place and enough financials as such to support both people, then you can register on the non-working. As an EU citizen, you'd be registering using savings, private healthcare, and not working.
Actually, it's
So
going to be easier his way around because his wife can register first, do all the
yeah,
EU registry first. So it actually took 3 months to get ours done before we could register Liz anyway
yeah,
on ours. It probably won't take you that long because
no.
you won't break down in a car in northern Spain and have an appointment delayed. But yeah, that'll be easier for you.
In fact, it's advisable to wait till January to start the autonomo. If you can start like cleanly in the first quarter, it's quite nice for your account. So and there's nothing stopping you. You can't exercise, and Tony will be better off to tell you this, but you can't exercise an activity, do any facturas or whatever when you're not registered as autonomo. But there's nothing stopping you getting yourself out there and promoting and just saying as of the first of. That's not a problem. You just have to
Yeah.
be careful you're not actually doing it.
I'll lend you a guitar, John, when we go out. We'll do some practicing. There we go. That's going to be terrible not having your guitars for a few months. They're not arriving. So, oh yeah, we had some questions from social media. Let's get those ones answered as well. This is a quick one. We were just talking about this before we came on air. It's now NatWest Bank's policy to not stamp bank statements for the NLV. What do we do?
There may be a branch dependent thing because we have actually had them stamped this week from NatWest. But what we have had is also this week from NatWest was they did a covering letter which accompanied the bank statements, which basically authenticated them and said the person who owns this account, blah blah blah. So yeah, that may be a branch dependent thing, as I say. We have had them, but in general, when I went back to the consulate in September, no, when was it? Was it in September last year? No, it was this year, wasn't it? Sorry, I've been so many times.
Yeah.
For the strike, when I went for the strike, it wasn't.
Yeah,
It
that
was
was
in
this
March.
year. Yeah.
April was the strike, wasn't it?
Uh-huh.
Confused myself. I spoke to them about this, and the guy who had recently taken over the visas department, really nice guy, and he said the question is the validity of the statements, and we have to be able to verify the origin of the statements. Now, I said, well, that's very hard in the UK because in Spain you verify them on two ways. You either have a bank stamp on them, that's why they request the stamps because they consider the stamp to make it legitimate, or they do it digitally. Now in Spain, you can do it digitally, use many documents in Spain either have QR codes, CSV codes, barcodes, which if you scan them, relate back to the organisation that issued them and confirm that it's a valid document. I know this is a really hard thing as I have to explain this all the time to clients. I'm like, how do we do that? Well, if you've got original statements, we had somebody who managed to get some out of a machine in their bank the other day, but they came through the bank paper, they came with a little code at the bottom and they were accepted. So the question is a validity. So I'd go back to the bank and say exactly that. Look, we need to be able to prove that we haven't just printed these off online, that you've given them to us. Can we have either a letter, a certificate or something that if you can't stamp them, that proves that these are original statements?
Great. Let's get the other question up. Now, this one, I'm going to paraphrase it because it's a long question, but I'll display it anyway. This one's from Brian Spark, and basically what he's saying is, what happens to the residency status of the non-EU partner if the EU partner dies or they get divorced?
So you don't lose your residency. Evidently, as we were talking about this before as well, you can't, if, for example, you got residency on Thursday and got divorced on Friday, that might be not looked at in favourably by immigration.
Yeah, a bit suspicious.
Yeah, but if you also, depending on, again, it depends, but depending on your circumstance, you may have to change the type of residency you've got. And it depends if you're working, if you're not working, if you're a dependent of the EU citizen. But then, for example, in the case where a spouse may die and they hand the inheritance off to their partner who had residency, then they can prove that they can still economically support themselves in Spain. So yeah, you don't automatically lose the right, but you may have to A, change the platform which you've got residency, and B, prove that you can still not be a burden on the state and social security here.
Mm-hmm. Did you mention whether it's time limited? Is there a certain? Do they have to be there for a certain length of time?
Definitely minimum a year. So they are dealt with on an individual case basis, I have to say. So you can't stop someone dying, but that's not time dependent. So if you've got residency and someone dies, 3 weeks later, then you'd have to approach immigration and find out what to do. Mm-hmm. And how that would affect your status. But if you're doing it on a marriage status, I say definitely you'd need to have at least a year under your belt, because if not, they may look at it. Because we always say when we're doing the residency applications that, a year is shorter marriages than a year. They do look at, we have to provide extra proof, that it's been a stable couple. Then I'd say a minimum of a year, if not having proof that if you got divorced, a stable couple before you got residency.
Mm-hmm. Great. Let's see. Ian Fleming says he's dropped you an email to work with you to process our residency. We arrive with an NLV and own a property. What's the first couple of things we should seek to do? Thanks.
Cool. Basically, we'll answer the email. Sorry, I didn't see the email. I might have gone to support, so I'll ask Jay to answer that on Monday. But yeah, so when you come, the main thing is, I don't know if Ian's got his visa yet, but when he does get his visa, evidently check the details on the visa, make sure they're okay. That's the first thing to do. Make sure that the dates that you've got on the visa, there have been mistakes, are correct. And then when you come into Spain, evidently you need to make sure that you get an entry stamp into Spain. Okay, mm-hmm. Which for people who are driving through France can be slightly difficult, and proving that when you enter Spain, it really depends on which foreign office or extranjería you're going to, on how they treat that. So we treat those differently. You either need what they call a declaración de entrada, so you have to go and declare you're actually here in 3 days. Some of them accept a petrol receipt, and then some of them, like Maria yesterday, where I had one which was a French stamp, just accept me waffling on at them. So it's the main thing is if you fly in, please get a stamp, and then when you do get here, if you've got a permanent abode, make inroads into registering on the padron.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. We've both done videos or articles all about making sure you get the stamp on your passport there. So if you need any more information, Ian, just go to either mine or Chris's website. I copied the information from Chris, so either one is exactly right. So there we go.
There's probably a whole live there talking about the post visa pre-registration, to be honest. Now, especially with our experience this summer, with the timings and everything else, I think there's probably a whole video there.
Yeah, definitely. I'll put that one on the list. So next one, Paul Jarvis Beasley. He says, I have EU citizenship. My wife is UK. We married in the UK in 2013. Spanish lawyer says we need marriage certificate registered in Germany. But German consulate says not necessary. What can you advise, please? Presumably they're living in Germany at the moment.
So much you go. It depends where you got married. So
in the UK, it says that.
Sorry, I can't see the things.
So they're married in the UK, but presumably now they're in Germany and applying via the German consulate, Spanish consulate, and the German consulate says, the Spanish lawyer says we need a marriage certificate registered in Germany. The German consulate says not necessary. Well, then, if the consulate says it's not necessary, then that's okay, presumably. Yeah,
if Paul's EU and his wife's non-EU, then they can come to Spain first, and she can register here.
Mm-hmm. And the Spanish lawyers giving funny advice there.
And yeah, but I think what's happening there is, I'm just reading between the lines. So I think point A would be if if Paul's EU, his wife's non-EU, then they can come to Spain and do the residency here, as we're going to talk about now. And B, the marriage certificate in Spain, you have to, and for all immigration, you have to present a recent duplicate of your marriage certificate, apostilled accordingly and translated. If you're married in the UK, that's what you'd have to present. I'm not too sure if what the Spanish law is saying, that they have to register the marriage in Germany and then get a certificate from there first to bring. Maybe they're saying that, I don't know, but that's how it would be for very much like yourselves. I think you have to get a marriage certificate, apostilled, translated.
Yeah, even though we were living in, because we were living in Ireland, but we got married in England, and we just did the UK one. We got one from the UK. I sent off from Ireland to the UK to get that. So it was fine. An English one was fine.
Which actually brings us quite nicely to the stage 2 of the residency process.
Absolutely. Well done. Actually, just before we do that, let's get this question has a very quick answer. If, when you apply to work in Spain, can you work while waiting for the application to be processed?
Well, funny enough, well, no, you can't. It's funny, no, you can't. But the law, actually, you're working on the EU platform, and I was listening to a very, very interesting video on this morning, which says there's nothing in the law that says you can't work, but most organisations don't recognise it because you haven't got residency, you haven't got a resguardo, and many times you haven't got an NIE number. So it is virtually impossible to do so. So you would have to wait for your residency to come through.
There we go. That was more complicated than I thought. Thank you.
Yeah, no, so it's funny enough. I was listening to a very interesting video, a very good lawyer this morning who we have contact with. He's like, there's absolutely, it's one of those where there's nothing that says you can't because it's an EU platform, though it's difficult to do so until you get your residency.
There we go. Okay, we'll answer the other ones on the live chat in a minute, but let's go on to the non-EU part of the residency then, because this is what most people will be wanting to do.
So the non-EU part of the residency, so you've got your EU card, and the non-EU part is done at immigration. Now, first of all, what they are doing now is they're starting to eliminate all appointments at immigration and trying to move them onto the online platform that we use. Even so, if you're a specialist professional who helps people, or you're an individual, you can use an online platform called Mercurio to present any residency application to immigration. You can also do it as an individual at an appointment. Now they're making massive inroads into putting this system virtually all online. But to do it online, you need to have a digital certificate. Okay, so that's the first thing. And many people evidently and to get a digital certificate, you would need an NIE number, and a lot of non-EU partners, spouses, don't have NIE numbers. Okay, so that's the first sort of hurdle that people might find if they're trying to do it themselves. At the moment, there are currently appointments available, but I spoke to the Extranjería in Malaga, and he said, no, they're definitely looking to put it on the online platform as soon as possible. And they have been making a lot of changes to the online platform as well. So that's the first thing, is getting your paperwork into immigration. The good news is if you've got everything lined up, then you can pretty much make the submission straight away if you do it online without waiting for an appointment. So the main thing is going back to what we said about the principal's residency. You have to have evidently the financials. Now, if it's deposited in a bank account, for example, savings you're working on, and you took out a certificate from the bank and for the EU residency, and that is now a month old, it's always advisable to get an up-to-date statement. If it's now, we're talking about the financial can be quite complicated, because obviously the person who is applying as a non-EU citizen can't be, they have to be living in Spain, and the person, the EU citizen, has to sponsor them, you know, using their financials or joint financials, basically. So if you've got a joint bank account, that's fine. Right? So that would, depending on how you're going to support yourself financially, if the EU citizen has a contract, well, you will need to use that. If they're self-employed, you would need to use the proof that they're self-employed as well. Okay, so that's presented to immigration. Evidently, the healthcare, whichever way you've got healthcare or your EU spouse has got healthcare, you need to present that as well. And then the most important thing, if we're talking about either a spouse or descendants, if it's a spouse, you would need to present the marriage certificate, as we said before, a recent duplicate. That has to be also with an apostille if it's from outside the EU and translated by an official translator. And if you're doing it on the online platform, don't just submit the translation, submit a copy of the original document as well. Because they want to see the original document and the translation. Same goes for birth certificates. You need to have them if they're not from the EU. You have to have those translated and apostilled. And evidently, you have to prove, and it's best if you submit a padron where you're living together, convivencia, to prove that you're all living at the same address.
So that's all of the documents. Someday soon has asked the question, so it's private healthcare needed for both. Can you go on the Spanish system, and at what point?
Private healthcare if you're not working. So if you're not self-employed and you're not working, you'll need private healthcare. After a year, you can apply for the Convenio Especial, and then if you go onto the Spanish with everything that comes with the Convenio Especial, once you have that in place, it's not a done deal just because you apply. They don't have to give you the Convenio Especial. You have to apply to the government. But if you get that, then you'll get access to the healthcare and you can use that.
There we go. And Liz Coleman says, hello, we're retiring and moving to Madrid from the USA. I am Spanish and my husband is American. Can your company help my husband with his visa process?
Yes. So we've just done one in Madrid actually for Spaniards. So yeah, we can. Yeah. So we would do, in that sense, what we would do is we would first of all get the documents together. Evidently, you would need to go for your DNE if you haven't got one, and then make the online application, and we can get the approval. For that, the only thing we can't help is in person when you come to the next stage, what we're going to talk about.
There we go. So yeah, get in touch via upsticks.es for that one. There we go. Oh, what's this? And what's this? Mad David says, I've just won 195 million on the Euro lottery. Would you recommend the golden visa? He says, I wish. Yeah, you can do what you want if you've got that amount of money. You can make yourself a pair of wings.
I'll sort it out. Yeah, I'll sort it out.
Yeah, just send us the money and we'll sort it out.
It's good. This is cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And he says, someday soon says he's going to be working for a UK company remotely, likely. Okay. That's not something that you can do at the moment.
Book a call.
Yeah,
we'll talk about your circumstance.
Yeah, book a call. There's lots of it depends on there.
Yeah.
And John is saying, I read that people arriving in Spain need to show proof of return plane ticket due to the 90 limit, but we are coming to live on a one-way plane ticket. Will they ask at customs?
No, I haven't had any experience of that yet with our clients.
No. Is that to do with the fact that you're coming from Australia? No, you're flying from the UK, so
yeah,
no.
Definitely. We're having problems the other way around at the moment with people not getting stamped when we need them to have stamps. We're having it the wrong way. We're not problems getting in. It's problems of where's your stamp? It's like, oh, well, we didn't get one. So I don't know. Sometimes if they just open the floodgates, I don't really know. But I've had it on 3 occasions now where people should have had entry stamps and haven't got them. So it goes contrary to everything I see on the internet, and I'm like,
yeah, lots of people are complaining about that. They've stamped my passport again. The biggest problem is
we're not getting stamps. So we've had 3 occasions where we haven't had a stamp when we needed one.
Yeah,
the other way round.
It's mad. There's always so. Where are we up to in the process then? We've gone through all the documents, haven't we? What happens
Yeah,
next?
so I mean, there's a lot of supporting documents that you can submit. Obviously, if you've got children, if you've already got them registered in a school, that would need to go in as well. You know, the good thing about the application online is that you can submit as many documents which support the application as you like. The only thing we suggest is that you definitely name them correctly. Now, we have a naming format which seems to work for us. So we have the name of the client, ID, if they've got IDs, if they've got an NIE number, what the document is, and then extra information if needed. So when immigration open up their portal, they look at it, they can see who it relates to, what the document is, and there's notes afterwards they probably don't end up reading. But you know, so if you just send in like JPEG 58294, you know, we always say try and keep the documents light. There's a limit to how much you can upload in megs in one go. So it's per document, it's 6 megs, and we always reduce the size of our documents to make sure that when it gets to the other end, they're easy openable. You just got to make it easy as possible for immigration. So we had one last week that came through, which initially came through asking for all, they had a requirement letter saying, oh, we need this, we need proof of income, we need this, that. We'd already submitted it. And then we left it 24 hours and the approval came through without us doing anything. So they obviously hadn't looked at it properly first time. So you've got to make it as easy for them as possible, even on the online platform.
Oh, Paul's come back with just a clarification. So, just to clarify, we're living in the UK. He acquired German citizenship in 2020. Spanish lawyer says the marriage certificate has to be registered in Germany as we are applying on the basis of my German status.
No, we did it with you. You got married before your Irish passport, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Same.
So it should be fine.
Yeah, sorry, keep referring back to your case, but it's relevant to this, but you were, yeah, it's the same as what we did for you.
Yeah, I acquired Irish citizenship. I mean, I don't know if it's any different because Ireland and Britain have a kind of a different agreement, but no, it's still EU and non-EU.
Yeah, it's different. Yeah, still. So if you acquired Irish citizenship after you got married, and we got an updated copy of your marriage certificate apostilled and translated. So
in the UK, yeah.
Yeah.
So it should be fine, Paul. Yeah. Say that to your Spanish lawyer and see what he says.
Don't reference me.
Say, yeah, don't say, Chris said this.
Yeah, hit squad coming to Alarie.
Yeah. Okay. So where were we then? We've got through the documents.
So we've got through the EU, we've got through the application. So now when you make your application, immigration have 90 days to respond. They sometimes they take their 90 days, but generally it takes around a month to 6 weeks. At the moment, the last few we've had through were a couple of months. You generally find you get a bit of a flurry before summer and then it goes dead until afterwards. It depends on the time of the year as well. So, you know, the one thing is if you are a non-EU citizen riding off the back of an EU citizen and you've got your application in, then you're fine to stay while that's being processed. In theory, you can travel, but we always advise not to. You know, if you can stay, that's better not to, because you don't know how the border guard's going to react to the proof that you've got an application in, do you? So if you have to, you can, but it's better not to. Then once you get your approval through, you get a document. Well, 3 things can happen. You can be denied the residency, in which case you've got 30 days to appeal. You can get a letter which is a requerimiento, which they require more documents, at which point you've got 10 days to respond with said documents. Or you can get an approval. Now, when you get your approval, you get a resolución, and that resolución you then use to register back at the extranjería your TIE card as a family member of the EU citizen.
So you need an appointment for that at the extranjería.
That's right. It's the same platform as we spoke about before, which I think you're going to link below, aren't you? It's a different kind of appointment that you need. You need a fingerprint appointment, which is called a toma de huellas. And then when you go to that appointment, you have to be prepared with a photo. So a photo, evidently an up-to-date padron. So if you submitted one which was for your original application, but you're now going to register this card, get an up-to-date one. Then your original passport, copy of passport, and the relevant application forms and taxes.
Yeah, and if it's like it is here in Computer, it can take you a month to get your Padron certificate. So you'll need to think about that in advance.
Not normally when you're registered, can't you just like then get a duplicate which is recently stamped? It's the registration that takes a while, isn't it?
Yeah. Actually, I think it's just because the bloke who does everything on the computer is only there a certain day a week, and he's got a backlog. So it's just because we're up in the mountains, I think. But if you're in a city, I don't suppose it's going to be difficult.
A lot of places like Alarin, where we are, digital certificate, can get it. Once you register it.
Yeah. I could probably do that very quickly now. Yeah. So Liz Coleman says, "Thank you guys so much for all the great information. I'll be reaching out to Upsticks." There you go.
Cool. Thanks.
Absolutely.
So you'll register your card. One thing I will say is we had an experience in Estepona recently where you've got the residency approved. It's been approved. You shouldn't have to take any supporting documentation other than the resolution. Recently in Estepona, we had one where they literally wanted to go through all the supporting documentation again. So because you've got it, take it in a folder anyway. Right, you can't have enough, take your, as we always laugh and joke, take the washing machine bill, but it's if you've got that document, you've evidently kept it in a folder, take it with you anyway. You shouldn't need it to register TIE card, but if the person behind the desk decides they want to see it, well, there you go.
Belt and braces all the time.
Belt and braces all the time. And then when you register the card, it's the same as like with the NLBs. You'll get a document which is called a resguardo, and the resguardo then allows you to operate in Spain as though you've got a TIE card. That's the proof that you've got a TIE card. You're just waiting for it. And then we always say 45 days. The police occasionally say 30, but they never come back in 30 days. And if they do, it's a rare occasion. So 45 days till you get your TIE card back.
There you go. So, is that the complete end of the process then?
Yeah, that's it. So then obviously you'll come to renewal in 5 years' time, unless you're divorced or whatever. And then you have to. We'll do another video on that bit.
yeah, we'll come to that later. So there we go. We don't have any more questions on the live chat. Is there anything else that we need to say about the process?
No, I think that's an overview. I mean, look, the process is, if you look on the Spanish government website, it does say that, so we've spoken about spouses, people who are married, and the children, birth certificates. Now, there is the flexibility of bringing other members of family in, but they have to be medically or financially dependent on you, and you have to prove that historically. It's extremely difficult to do. So, it's if you've got a medically and financially dependent parent, then in theory you can bring them in if they're if you're EU and they're non-EU. I don't know how that would work, because maybe you've got an Irish passport or something through somewhere, I don't know, but in theory, if you have a non-EU member of family who you can prove that you medically or financially support, you can bring them in, but it's extremely difficult. The same for non-married partners as well, non-married spouses. Marriage certificate is pretty much a tick in the box, whereas if you haven't been married for a certain amount of time, then you really would have to present quite a lot of proof that you are common law partners as such.
There we go. So that just about clears it up, doesn't it? I have to say to Liz Coleman, don't forget to click on the link below for you to sort out your currency exchange. I'm going to keep on mentioning that, and get your because there's a lot going on with the currency market at the moment. It's up and down all the time. There you go. Oh, there's another question from John. Is there a process we have to do to renew our visas early on the anniversary till the 5 years are up?
You renew your residency and TIE card at the 5-year point when you get it.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and there is a process there to do, which is actually different for the EU member and the non-EU citizen.
Yeah, he's saying that it looks like he's asking whether you have to do it every year.
Oh no, so I can't see the question. No, you
No.
don't. It's 5 years. It's 5 years.
Yeah, just 5 years.
Yeah.
There you go. John says thank you. Lovely. Let's put that one down. So if there's no more questions, then we can let you go slightly early, 10 minutes early. Have an extra bit of time with your family. Time to check out
Thank
the
you.
hotel.
Sorry for shooting off today, guys. It was a case of I couldn't. The appointments came up, and I was like, and they were quite late yesterday afternoon. I was like, right, okay, I'm just going to bring everybody with me, and we're going to go and have a look at the Alcazaba today. So I'm sorry for shooting off, but I hope we've sort of covered most of the subject.
Yeah, that's good. Any more questions, then put them in the comments below. I'll send them to Chris, or get in touch with upsticks.es, and Chris can answer your questions directly there. And yeah, get yourself an appointment. Have a chat with him.
I'll let you decide the prize winners, because I'm going to shoot off.
Of course, yeah. Maybe Paul Jarvis Beasley. He's definitely not had a prize. There we go. Paul, send Chris or me your details of postal address. That's what we need. Either info@YouTooSpain.com or upsticks.es. There's an email there. Okay, so we'll give Chris a big virtual hug from everyone, and thanks for being marvellous, and wave goodbye and everything. And we'll see you in 2 weeks' time. It's been a pleasure. Bye for now. There we go. Excellent. What a lovely chat. Next week on our Cozy Family Settee, we have the wonderful Ruth Collins, who was really, really great on the show a few weeks ago, maybe a few months ago now, when we were talking about the driving license debacle. And she's an ex-driving instructor, and she's got a lot to say about other things as well. She's got loads of experience of moving to Spain, and she'll be joined by her namesake and friend Ruth Baldessera to give, as I say, an update on the UK driving licence swap fiasco, because the ambassador said it'll all be sorted out by the end of July, and that's next week. So will it be sorted out by the end of July? He said that even if it's not, this was the latest note that came out yesterday, I think, from I think it's called Brits in Spain, their Facebook group, and it said basically the Spanish are still going to have people working there into August to continue if it's not absolutely completed. But things are definitely moving on. Anyway, we'll completely go into that next week. So if I don't see you in the virtual Cafe of Cash on Monday, that's something that's building nicely. There's only a few people watching it to start with, because it's just a new and it's a very narrow subject. But anyway, if I don't see you then, I'll see you next Saturday at the regular time of 9 a.m. if you're in the UK or Ireland, or 10 o'clock if you're in Spain already, or 4 o'clock in the morning if you're on the east coast of America. Sorry it's so early. Whatever time we broadcast, someone in the world gets the short straw. John Nelson's listening at like 11 o'clock at night or something, aren't you, John? And my lovely wife, Liz, says hi, by the way. She says, don't forget to join her for the free virtual yoga and meditation on her YouTube channel, YouTooYoga. The link is below with the other ones. She's in the middle of a yoga session just outside, right at this minute, with some locals. So that's all for this week. Somebody hoover the pool, would you? There are leaves everywhere. It can't take you anywhere, honestly. And wipe up the wine stains. Right, let's head into the virtual pool. Thanks, John. Great show tonight, as always. And thanks Someday Soon, and Liz and Paul Jarvis Beasley. Get us your address over here. We'll send you that prize out. And thanks to everybody else who's been on the chat there. I'm actually, next Thursday evening, forgot to mention, I am on the Matharon, expat in Matharon. I'm live on his show. This is a kind of a repeat of the show when he came on mine. So yeah, I'll see you on his show on Thursday night. That's I think at 9:30 p.m. in Spain. So there we go. Peace and love, everybody. I will see you on one of those occasions. And it's time to dance, isn't it? Here we go. Bye for now.